Hi, my name is Nancy Mudd, and I'm the Customer Service Manager at IVS LLC. In this video, I'd like to talk with you about the recently added accessibility feature that will be available for your ballot marking system starting with the primary election on August 9, 2022. Up until now, your ballot marking systems enable a person with visual impairment to vote independently using this telephone-style keypad. The problem is that this keypad may not work for someone with dexterity impairment. With the new accessibility upgrade, if the voter has difficulties using this keypad, they can now vote by simply pressing on a button like this. Each of your ballot marking systems is now equipped with one of these buttons called the button switch, and they will connect to the IVS computer using this small box called the switch interface. The button switch has a wire ending with a standard 3.5 millimeter plug. The switch interface box has two standard 3.5 millimeter sockets on one end and a USB cord on the other end. To connect the button switch to the computer, you will need to insert this plug into one of these sockets, and then insert this USB end of the box into the USB port on your computer. There are two sockets here, but you will only need to use one. Either one is okay. Later, you'll see why we have two. Your voter may come in with their own button, and it may be attached to their wheelchair. The button would be positioned to best suit their abilities. For example, they might use their forehead to press the button, or they might use their foot to press a button. In this case, the device would be called a pedal switch. Whether it's a button you provide or a button switch the voter brings in, or even a pedal switch installed on the wheelchair, they're essentially single input devices and should have a wire ending in a standard 3.5 millimeter plug like this. And you would connect their device to the box and to the computer in the same way. Now your voter could also bring in a dual input device called a sip and puff. This is when you'll use both sockets on the interface box. A sip and puff is usually attached to the wheelchair and has a flexible gooseneck with a straw at the end. Every time the user sips, it triggers a signal going through one wire, and every time they puff, it triggers a signal going through the other wire. Each wire should end with a standard 3.5 millimeter plug. On this sip and puff device, I have each wire labeled appropriately. To connect the sip and puff device to the computer, you connect the sip wire to the socket labeled sip on the interface box, and connect the puff wire to the socket labeled puff, and then connect the interface box to the computer using the USB cord. Your voter sip and puff may or may not be similarly labeled. If that's the case, ask your voter which wire is for what. If your voter does not know, you can simply try one way, and if that does not work correctly, try the other way. You won't do any harm to the voter's device or your ballot marking system. In summary, for a button switch, you would only need one socket of the interface box. For a sip and puff device, you would use both sockets on the interface box. In both cases, the interface box would then connect to the computer via the USB port. After connecting the hardware, you will need to tell the computer the type of device the voter is using. To do so, you will go through the process of authorizing a voting session as usual until getting to the screen with the title Select an Operation Mode. There are now 4 ways for the voter to vote. The options are touchscreen, audio ballot with keypad, audio ballot with button switch, and audio ballot with sip and puff. Make the appropriate choice and let the voter take over from there. The computer now knows what instructions to provide to the voter to help them through every step of the voting process, making choices, reviewing ballot selections, making changes as necessary, and finally printing their votes on the ballot. I've covered everything you need to know to enable your voters to vote. I hope you'll agree that with this new accessibility feature, your ballot marking systems are now truly accessible since they enable any voter with just about any kind of disability to vote independently and privately. I hope this video is helpful. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me directly. Thank you for watching.